Good evening and welcome. It's Friday, it's 8 o'clock. That means it's time for Buster's Virtual Jazz Club. We are live streaming live now on YouTube, on the internet, to infinity and beyond. Welcome. I hope you had a great week, and I hope you're enjoying the nice weather we've got now, but still tuning in. So I want to thank all my regular Patreon subscribers and everyone who makes a donation via PayPal and Visa. And thanks for all your lovely messages. It's very easy to make a donation. Just please visit the website link below, and you can click all the links there. And on that page, you can also watch all of the past shows. They're all there, the whole lot. And you can see who my upcoming guests will be for the next few weeks. And please do also click the subscribe button on the YouTube page. I think it's that side down there. And give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the show, as that will really help me out. So on to tonight's show. My guest this evening was born in Birmingham and took up the double bass at school, immediately turning professional when he left school in 1981. His first engagement was as a resident bassist at the George Chisholm Club in Manchester, where he backed visiting jazz soloists, including American greats such as Art Farmer and Joe Newman. On moving to London in 1982, he quickly established himself as a highly versatile player capable of working in a wide variety of situations. Early tours included working with bands led by saxophonist Bobby Wellings, Don Weller and Bobby Watson, and trumpeters Ted Curzon and Red Rodney. He also began working with a string of visiting soloists including Bud Shank, George Coleman, Ray Bryant, John Hicks and Lee Konitz, as well as working with the cream of London-based musicians, including broadcasting with the Kenny Wheeler Big Band. Taking a couple of years out to complete a degree in maths and psychology, he returned to the jazz scene to become a member of the Ronnie Scott Sextet and Quartet, with which he toured the Caribbean, the Middle East and Europe, as well as working at Ronnie Scott's Club in London itself on a regular basis. Since then, he has been a member of bands led by some of the most highly respected jazz musicians in the business, including Stan Tracy, Gene Harris, Annie Ross, Brian Spring, Bobby Wellings, Alan Barnes and Don Weller. He's been nominated for the British Jazz Awards almost every year since they started, and his freelance work includes performing with Benny Green, Junior Mance, Ed Thigpen, John Gordon, Conti Candoli, Herb Ellis and Mundell Lowe. He set up his own record label, Trio Records, which has released 34 albums by artists such as Stan Tracy, Junior Mance, Bobby Wellings, Martin Drew, Peter King, Don Weller, Chris Biscoe, Karen Sharp and Alison Neal. And I'm pleased to say he's here with us now, live on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very wonderful Mr. Andy Cleyndert. Hello, mate. How are you doing?
All right. And thanks very much, Buster, for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for giving up your evening and sharing some of your fantastic music with us. I'm really looking forward to playing some of these tracks. You've done so much, Andy. It's absolutely incredible what you've achieved. And so obviously you've picked a few selections of a few of your favourite things, with some of the kind of real the people that have been quite significant in your career, in your development, I think. So we've got some lovely stuff, and you've also very kindly brought along a little exclusive for us, which we're going to play a little track which we discovered from somewhere of Ronnie Scott. But before we get to all that, I usually like to start by asking, how have you been this last year? You know, how's it been going? Have you been managing? I know you're not someone that likes to sit around much, so I'm sure you've been keeping busy. But what have you been up to?
So first of all, can I take issue with what you said about achievements? Because I don't think I've achieved anything. I've just been a very, very lucky person.
Oh.
Had a very nice musical life. But what have I been doing? Well, I've been practicing a lot to try and keep the playing going, having no gigs.
It's been tough, hasn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, it's been quite nice just practicing, which I really got into. It's dropped off a bit last month, but yeah, that's been good. And then still producing a couple of albums. Did a really nice album for Georgia Mancio and Alan Broadbent that Georgia's been doing an amazing job of promoting and getting really great reviews for.
Yeah, that's done very well, hasn't it? Very pleased to see that one flying. So that's great.
Yeah. so that's good. And
So were you? Sorry, did you say you produced that, or was you on the?
I
played
sort of
on,
engineered it
right?
and helped Georgia produce it. So
Helped with the producer. Oh, great,
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. Is that on your label, or is that what she's
No,
doing?
no,
No, I
that's
didn't think so. No,
no,
you. Yeah.
yeah.
And you've got this other album you've done recently with your Italian friend, who we're going to play a bit of a track later as well, aren't we? With Andrea Pozzo.
Andrea Pozzo, yeah. So that was just before lockdown. We got that out. But yeah, that's a very nice little trio album. And
Mark Taylor on that as well, right?
Mark Taylor on that.
On the
I
album.
came up with really from we sort of launched on the scene at the same time.
You
really.
go way back, don't
early
you?
80s, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, what we'll start with is we've got this kind of slightly rare recording of Ronnie Scott playing with a string quartet. But before we get to with a string orchestra, before we get to that, perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about how you got going in jazz, because I know you got a very early start, pretty much straight out of school, and was working straight away. So, but was there some prior to that? Was there a point at which you remember thinking, this is what I want to do? Was there, because quite often people say there was an album they heard, or might have been a person that you met that was influential, or sometimes it's just a kind of natural evolution of things. Was there anything like that in your kind of very early days?
I was kind of brought up in a very musical family, so there was always music around. So yeah. I was always made to play an instrument, started off with violin and a bit of piano, and then eventually the bass turned up.
So your folks are musicians, are they? Were they?
My mum was just really keen on music. So
fantastic.
So she made sure her kids played a lot of music, really. And my two sisters went to music college. And
so it was very much valued in your house by the sounds of it.
Yes, definitely. It was a big thing. So so music was always around. Yeah, and I was always into it. I was always listening to the radio, and at that time it was always I was just into classical music. And then when I went to secondary school, I fell in with a couple of friends. A guy called Richard Clark, whose great uncle used to have a dance band back in the day, and so he started a rehearsal dance band, and that got me sort of playing basically, and a tiny bit of improvising. And he was really into Fats Waller, which was fantastic, but not really inspiring for bass players.
There's not much to do, is there? For that left hand, in the
way
of
everything. Yeah. So I kind of went exploring and quickly discovered Oscar Peterson, and like Oscar's really useful because you meet some incredible bass players, so immediately you hit on Ray Brown, and a bit later Niels Pedersen.
It's a pretty good start,
and
isn't
Sam
it?
Jones, like the 60 sessions with Sam Jones are fantastic, like great playing by Sam Jones, and so that's really inspirational. So I immediately hooked onto that, and then I had another friend at school, Graham Varley, and who played a bit of trumpet, and we used to hang out in the school practice rooms every lunchtime trying to play, and we used to kind of challenge each other to listen to the most far out thing possible, which probably wasn't. He got into Mars, I got into Charles Mingus, and that was about the extent of it. But it was it was good. And then I just got into playing, and I used to play onto records, and then some. I think through someone I heard of this drummer John Petters in Harlow, which is a few miles up the road from where I was, and I heard that his wife was playing, or girlfriend was playing bass for him, and she'd stopped, so he was kind of looking for a bass player. So I just, on the off chance, I rang him up and said, couldn't give me a gig.
Very good. Very good.
As a 14 or probably a 15-year-old.
Fantastic.
And, I'll give you a gig. I'll come and pick you up. And so he picked me up in a minivan. And really early on, 15, 16 years old probably, I was doing we used to do these little working men's clubs and the trad jazz clubs in town. And in fact, the very first gig I did with him was with a clarinet player called Cy Laurie, who was one of the revivalists of the trad scene,
Right.
And he was fantastic. And the only trouble with that gig was it was just the rhythm guitar player on it, and me and John Petters. And Cy Laurie kind of played a solo. Then he turned around to the guitar player, who just went, "Oh no, I just play rhythm." So that was my first gig and first bass solos ever. And they probably have never improved, with not a clue.
Thrown in the deep end, yeah. Nothing like it.
Also, that was a kind of very useful scene, that trad scene. So I'll be ever grateful to John Petters, because it was impossible to know all those hundreds and thousands of tunes.
Yeah, quite obscure stuff.
Yeah, a lot of obscure stuff with verses and choruses and all sorts of bits and pieces. So you could only use your ear and
good
try.
Good ear training.
So it was great ear training, and
And there's something about playing proper, gigs where there's an audience and you're getting paid and you're in pubs and things when you're only sort of 15 or 16. It's incredibly exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to come back with a $5, and then the next day
you're like a millionaire, aren't you? Yeah.
I used to go and spend it on the way back to school in the local record store.
Yeah. I must say we've had a comment, and I've got to welcome Georgia Mancho's in the house. She's on the on the chat board. She said that you more than helped produce her record. You were a complete star. So yes, you're too modest, mate. I know. Welcome, Georgia. Lovely to see you in here, and thank you for tuning in. So okay. Well, that sounds like a great start, and and you, like I say, you've certainly hit the ground running, and so moving forward a little, you came to London, and we were chatting earlier. You were telling me about how you started depping a bit, but was it Don that got you the first kind of gig on that scene?
Of, like after John Petters, I somehow hooked up with Julian Strindle, which was fantastic.
Oh, right.
So I played in his Dixieland band, which is with, Paul Clarvis was in that, the Sidwells were in that. And so that was also a great start. And that was the George Chisholm Club connection as well in Manchester. So I kind of left school without any A levels, and kind of didn't have anything else to do. And I was already doing gigs. So I kind of sadly fell into music rather than choosing it for quite a while.
Yeah,
I did later properly choose to do music, so it changed. But initially, I was the luckiest person ever. I was just kind of fell in and started working. And also another person to thank a lot is I did this George Chisholm Club for a little bit. Probably when I was 18, after I left school, I went straight up there for maybe 4 or 6 months. And when I came back to London, John Altman gave me his Sunday night gig at, what was it, in Buckhurst Hill, can't remember the pub. And John Altman then, and still is, kind of king of the session scene. So he used to get all sorts of fantastic people coming to guest on his Sunday night gig, and which was another amazing experience. I used to get to play with all sorts of great, really, really great players, because he always used to book jazzers on his sessions. So in return, they all used to come up. And one of the people he booked was Bobby Wellens, which was fantastic. And through Bobby, immediately, Bobby hooked me up with Don Weller, and Don Weller gave me a gig, and off it went, really.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's obvious. I mean, you're an incredible musician and bass player, and they obviously heard something in you. And I know you're being very modest, but you must have. I mean, you must have.
No, I'm not. As I explained earlier, Buster. There were only 5 of us. I'm sorry if I left anyone out, but it was just Mick Hutton, Steve Berry, Paul Morgan, Paul Whitten. Those are the ones I can remember, and me. And I was the least of anything. amongst that lot. And yeah, we were lucky people because we were very busy.
Yeah, well, they
Yeah,
obviously heard that your talent, and because they could have booked anyone. But I mean, you were so very quickly you were playing with some really heavyweights on the British jazz scene, and that must again,
yeah.
a very exciting time for you. And at that time as well, we were talking earlier about that kind of whole boom of jazz around that sort of late 80s scene. Everything just took off, didn't it? And then right through
I
the
mean, this is
90s, there was all
yeah,
these
this is kind of
amazing
still
gigs.
early 80s, and
Early 80s, we're talking.
yeah, and there was
Yeah.
like there was a lot of work around, really, just odd gigs. And I mean, like immediately I started working with Don with Brian Spring, which is another big influence.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what heavyweight he is just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And what a privilege to play with both of them. So I played in the Weller Spring Quartet, and like we were doing 2 gigs a week, whereas like with regularly and like all over the place, and for good money then when I think about it.
Yeah.
It was really
hasn't gone up since, but it was good then. Yeah, but I mean that regular, like twice a week with the same lineup, and when you're
that's ridiculous.
exploring this sort of music as well, because it's you're not playing when you need that time on the stand, playing with people and getting to know each other's playing, and that gives you that confidence to stretch. And the music kind of evolves and grows, and it's something else, isn't it, when you're playing jazz?
And if you think around that time there wasn't the music college scene. There was very little.
You're right. There wasn't jazz at colleges, was there?
And there was very little teaching going on.
Leeds were Leeds doing their course then?
Leeds was
but that was about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the only one. And I think a big difference between then and now is like the explosion in education.
Yeah,
is just amazing, and just the amount of language that kids get now, and
and the internet, of course.
Well, I was going to mention that because
it's accessible.
Like before, there wasn't anything, so you just felt your way through buying the next record and then the next record, and explored it that way, which is super slow. And now you've got the universe in front of you at your fingertips. And then I can just remember listening to things and thinking, that's impossible. I'll never be to that standard. Whereas now I think kids with the education they have, with this amazing language they get together so quickly and relatively painlessly, as far as I can see, and coupled with the internet where they can just anything is available on YouTube, and they just see it. Now it's the world of the possible rather than the world of the impossible.
Yeah,
as it felt to me at the time.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I remember thinking, even somebody mentioned an album, you should check out that album. It's like, I've never heard of it, and there's no way. And I'd love to get 2 buses to Croydon and then spend the whole afternoon going around the record shops. Have you heard of this album? No, mate, never heard of it. And it's like, and then you spend like the whole afternoon, you come home and you haven't got it. You still haven't got it. And that was quite sort of, so it is very different. But, there's no shortcuts, are there? People still have to put the work in, but just having...
No,
and I guess...
The other difference is then there were loads more gigs. So literally, personally, I learned on gigs really, with just being totally out my depth all the time, and somehow getting away with it and being a very lucky,
let's play some music because we've got a lot to get through, and you've played. I mean, there's just so much great stuff you've done, and you've just picked a few things. But you have made now, and we'll talk about your recording engineering as well a bit more, and your record label which you set up. But you found this track, so you worked. Moving forward a little bit, you were playing with Ronnie Scott, and you were. And of course, John Christensen, and you found this kind of session tape. We're not sure where it comes from, and you're on the bass, and it's something that was put together for a broadcast with an orchestra, just a one-off thing. And you found this tape, and it's Ronnie Scott playing a beautiful ballad, and I don't think people quite perhaps maybe then, but not so much now, are aware, because there's not a lot of his recording there's not a lot of recordings of him playing in this way, is there? I don't think
there isn't. I mean, there's not a lot of recording. I mean,
of much of him anyway. Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, there's quite a bit of early stuff of the jazz careers and things and that period. But he later on, he definitely didn't really like recording, which is a great shame because he was just a giant of a tenor player. And this track comes from 1986, I think it was, and this was probably well before I joined the band, and I was just stepping for Ron Matheson occasionally.
Fantastic. Oh, so this. Oh, okay. I didn't quite make that connection. This is so you were just subbing on this. Band. Yeah. Fantastic.
I was just doing a few gigs with him, and like Mark Taylor used to do it as well. And just by chance, like I got a call saying, "Oh, can you be at the studio at Maida Vale, I think it was, like tomorrow morning for a string session because Ron can't do that one either." And I went along, and it's little string orchestra and some beautiful string arrangements, and Ronnie just playing absolutely beautifully. So,
and did we figure out what this track is?
No, we still haven't. So
so if anyone can recognise the tune, then let us know. But so this is from 1986. It's Ronnie Scott, and we've got some pictures as well, which you've kindly supplied, of you playing with Ronnie and Dick Pearce as well in there, and Mark Taylor, I think. And is it John on the piano? I think.
John Crick,
yeah. And so let's check this out. Here we go. Fantastic. Wonderful. Oh, that's an absolute gem. Thank you for bringing that along. Wow. Ronnie Scott there and in fine form. Absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful. Beautiful play. Wow. And so that was 1986 with you on the bass with a session with a string orchestra and yeah, what a so this is prior to you playing them. We saw some of those lovely pictures there as well. Thank you. Fantastic. Marvelous. So we're going to play next. We've got some footage of the quartet with Stan Tracy that you did
yeah,
for a while, which is another great band.
yeah. No
This
kidding.
is
So that was like 2 decades of absolutely amazing music making. With what a privilege to
I
play
was
with
saying to
Stan.
you earlier, I remember going to see you guys. I think, and I
Yeah,
thought it was at Ronnie's, but you said it must have been. It was at the Bull's Head, probably. Yeah,
yeah,
and
and to play with Clark for that, to hook up with someone for that period of time is amazing. But yeah, I mean, what a towering giant Stan Tracy from yeah
is
from
he?
beginning
I
to
get the
end.
impression he's not somebody that says much about things, and you
It
kind
doesn't.
of
That was quite a shock because you're used to
yeah,
going on gigs and everyone say, "Oh yeah, no, it's playing Andy," or not saying anything, and then
yeah.
And but normally people are really kind of open. And I can remember the first gig I did with Stan was a trio gig at the Queen Elizabeth Hall Purcell Room, I think. So that was pretty scary. Like first gig out, you're playing trio with Stan Tracy, and and we came off after it was just one set. We came off, and Stan didn't say much, and I'm thinking, oh my God, was it all right? Was it all right?
Oh,
And eventually I had to ask,
yeah.
oh, was that all right? Was that all right, Stan? I said, yeah, of course, yeah. Uh,
Oh.
what are you asking?
Oh, it's awful, isn't it?
Yeah,
That feeling. But and was
but
that with
yeah, well,
Clark as
like
well? The
Clark, yeah.
trio.
So yeah, and that whole family is just the epitome of generosity, I'd say, both musically and otherwise. So that was a great privilege to play with Stan for 2 decades, I think.
Amazing. And you've obviously produced some records as well, which are on your label.
Yeah,
We'll come to the label in a bit because there's a lot to talk about there. But we've got this video footage of a live gig in Poland, and it's 1996.
yeah,
You think, and with Gerard Presents, so young, well, you're all quite young at this stage,
yeah, like a boy
and
band.
absolutely yeah, absolutely on fire. I mean, and there's a lovely moment actually watching the video where you can see Stan sort of like smiling to himself. I think he was really obviously
Yeah. Well, I mean,
enjoying
it's funny,
playing with you guys.
yeah, I mean, Stan had been working with Art Thiemann for, again, an awful long time. So
Yeah,
this is his first quartet without Art, and he brought in Gerard,
right.
who, yeah, and so this was very early on. That quartet, maybe, we didn't play that long together, maybe a couple of years. And, but yeah, that was fantastic too. Yeah, and that was a great start to do playing with Stan, with Gerard, and it was a great quartet with Clark.
And this gig was for an international piano festival, I would think. But
Yeah,
we were talking before as well about some of those kind of tours that obviously that you did with Ronnie's band, and but I think it's come up before on this show. We talk about how the government, the Arts Council, used to pay for these kind of cultural tours where
yeah,
they'd send kind of like the Norman Grants thing, wasn't it? But it was
yeah.
a
No,
British
it's amazing.
cultural tour where they'd send jazz groups around Europe and the
Yeah, so
rest of the world.
I went to Turkey with Tim Richards' Spirit Level quite
Fantastic.
early on, which was amazing. Yeah, I can remember.
Is that the
Turkish
big? Was
art.
that the big band or the small one? I remember which one.
It was a quartet.
Quartet. Was that with
Oh no,
Kenrick?
no, oh no! It was Mark, the free improvising drummer. Mark, oh, it's gone. Fantastic drummer he is.
Sanders.
Sanders, yeah, Mark Saunders was in the band. So it was me, Mark Saunders,
Wow.
him, and a great tenor player who I can't remember his name. But yeah, that was terrific playing with Mark Saunders. That was an experience.
Yeah.
And actually recently we hooked up to do this little session, which is what a great guy he is. I don't know if you're a fan, but what an amazing musician to get so many sounds out of the kit.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times. It is quite remarkable to watch him play. I find musicians like that. It's great to see them because when you listen to the records, I'm sort of going, what on earth's that? You know, and when I'm watching them, I'm going, oh yeah, I see what he's doing there. And like you say, a lot of sounds have it. Yeah. Well, back to so let's play this video. It's quite a long track, but it's just great. The band's really on fire. It's a fantastic solo from all of you, and there's a nice little vamp at the beginning there, and I get the real sense of kind of you guys really having fun with this. And was that kind of quite a theme with I would imagine Stan would let you guys do your thing quite a bit. Was he quite open? That was
the biggest part of the gig. Like Stan just let people play, so there was no question of will there be a bass solo on this or a bass solo on that. It was kind of up to the participants how they wanted to contribute, and whatever they wanted to do, that's what went down. So which was quite a unique way of running a band. For a start, you don't get that very often anymore.
No, he's that's quite risk taking, isn't it? For him? And he enjoys that though.
Yeah, but also, I mean, that was one of the amazing gifts Stan had. It was still Stan Tracy band. It was no question. This is Stan Tracy music, even though everyone had as much or as little freedom as they wanted. So.
Because his character, his musical sound and signature is so strong, isn't it?
Yeah, and just I've never known anyone to be such an amazing improviser, like a true improviser. Like you're hearing new things all the time.
So every night's different.
Went on right into his older age, shall we say? Yeah. He was still creating all the time and playing new stuff. It was just amazing.
Very exciting because you just don't know what's going to happen every night.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, let's watch this then. So this is from 1996 from the Cleyndert Jazz Piano Festival, and it's a track called What Is This Thing Called Love?
I mean you. This is called I Can't Give You. No. What's it called? Oh yeah, I knew it was about love. What is this thing called love?
Fantastic, absolutely wonderful, and just wow, what a swinging group there, and you're all absolutely on fire. It's amazing, Andy, to hear you guys playing like that together, and you know, you're being very modest, but I've got to say, like, hearing you play there as well, you really are remarkably talented. Like, you've got this you've got this incredible technique. You've got your time is just perfect, and what strikes me there is when you guys started, you just hit the ground running. It's straight in, no messing about, and you have this amazing sound on the instrument as well, and it's like the holy trinity of what
very kind.
of what
I disagree with you, Buster, but
no. I mean, it's like it's quite something quite special, I think, Andy, and it's no wonder you've been playing with all these, you know, absolute legends for so long, and it really. But when you play there, when you just like that intensity of that moment when you play, like, how, is that something you're conscious of, or how do you feel about it? Or is it just like everybody's like at the top of you're playing with all these A-listers and yourself included, and you're all like at the top of it, and it's just like letting the cage
most
out.
of it is the company that you keeps lifting you and lifting you up a level all the time. But yeah, I have to admit, not more in the recent times, really, I've really started just focusing on just growing a bigger beat inside me, if you get what I mean. So, like, you have a really strong, just a really strong heartbeat going on time-wise, and also thinking more and more of how to articulate that in your playing. And what's I going to? Oh, I was going to mention. Oh yeah. So, it is kind of recently, because maybe Titley Jazz Festival, probably 10 years ago, maybe. Titley man, very great guy, called David. Oh my God, he's just given me a beautiful record player, which is sitting here. Anyway, he gave me my first gig as a band leader, and I decided to do it without drums and have a drumless quartet with guitar and piano and Martin Shaw on trumpet. And and then I deliberately went out my way to do kind of duo gigs and have loads of people without drums, and just like really focus on getting a really stronger beat together. And yes, and I used to think it was a natural thing, but no, it's something that you can grow, actually, and get stronger.
So are there some specific exercises or anything that you're doing technically, or is it more listening, or is it more of feeling?
The biggest revelation was I bought a what do you call it? A pedal for recording yourself. What's it?
A loop
pedal. And I started. I thought, I picked up a bass guitar a little while ago, and thought, I'll use a loop pedal to practice. I bought a loop pedal, and I thought, I'll just play a little walking line and start practicing over it. And I played a little walking line, and I tried playing against it. I thought, damn, that is hard work. What is going on? So I really started getting into it and realizing, you thought you were kind of all right, but no, mate, you're not all right.
No.
And I really started focusing on all sorts of things. And
I've got some exercises that I've worked on myself that I've put together. I didn't find anywhere, and what it is, it's like sorry folks, this is itself, but I'm very curious about this personally. So, like, one thing I found is really helpful is I made some loops on the computer, very simple. So they're metronomes, and so you put the metronome on 2 and 4, which is where I like it. But what I do is I have 4 bars, and then it mutes for 4 bars, and then it comes back in. So it's just cutting in and out, and so it's like you get the the pole, and then you've got to keep going, and it's very revealing when you come back in, where you are, and it's like but after a little while you find you really, once you lock into it, it's fine, but it's that thing of like the inner pulse, isn't it? It's a kind of, do you think it's like a confidence thing, isn't it? And also being relaxed.
I have to say, I think the biggest dead end people get into is the use of a metronome. I think that doesn't develop anything except your ability to play with a metronome.
Well, you can rely on it then, can't you?
Yeah,
if you're
I found
used
the loop pedal perfect, because if you play a 32-bar chorus into a loop pedal, and after the chorus is finished, it starts repeating immediately, you immediately hear whether
if it's
the
sped up or
slowed
slowed
down. That's the first thing you hear. And
not to mention the 11/8 bar at the end.
That's right.
They're great fun, those things, aren't they? There's one more technical thing as well, which I might ask you, which is what really struck me about listening to that, is there's something about the front end of the note, I think, that you get, which is there's a clarity that you have that is really amazing, and it really gives the time really clear. And I think some bass players with the double bass, maybe there's a technical, I don't know enough about it, but like they sound a bit woolly sometimes, and it's like you want a really sharp front end of the note. It can last. You want it to last legato. You want the note to reach the next note. Am I right? Because that's when it swings. But that attack on the note is crucial, isn't it, to getting the time?
So I mean, that was kind of lucky of hooking into Oscar Peterson and then Ray Brown, because that all that comes from Ray Brown. So if you listen to Ray Brown, the bit like Ray Brown is always super well recorded, so he's always got that sorted out. So there's always a lot of bass. But his thing is he's got this huge percussive ignition to the note, and then after that there's a huge bloom of a beautiful tone afterwards. But it's definitely in two parts. There's a percussion, really percussive edge to the note as it's being struck, and then this note develops afterwards, which is like immediately I maybe at the beginning I unconsciously hooked onto that, and but later I really identified what that was.
So if you don't have that percussion at the front and you get the bloom, then obviously that's a little behind the beat, is it, essentially?
Well, no, so there's lots of, so like a lot of people that play, I'm sure I'm going to get killed by other bass players. Probably nonsense I'm about to spout. But like I think about, I used to have discussions with Mark Taylor about this, like people that play with gut strings. So gut strings, some players you get that percussive thing, but I think it's easier with steel strings personally. So the gut thing seems to be, to me, a lot of the time is a bloom of a note. And if you listen to a lot of great players on gut strings, instead of being that percussive edge, they tend to leave a tiny little gap between each note, which defines the time.
So
and,
it's not purely legato to the next note. They're actually cutting it.
So a lot of people would argue that legato style of playing is a bit of a pain in the ass to work with, because it's just if you're not careful, it's got no definition. Right. So personally, I like the legato, and I like each note going into the next, but it needs a really percussive part to the note to get it.
The clarity of the note, yeah. I know what you mean about the legato, because I find that really helps it swing, doesn't it? If the note goes to the next note. Yeah, it's just got to. Otherwise, you get that gap in there, and it's thump, 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 thump. It's just not. It's really hard to make that swing, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, fantastic. Also, like a period I liked was like Ron Carter in the '70s, which he got kind of. A lot of people don't like it. That scene where he was doing hundreds of records for CTI and Creed Taylor. And he was recorded like with a pretty electric bass sound, and actually I kind of liked it. And also at that time, like that's when Neil Peterson came up, and he also initially he had a really acoustic sound, but by the time he was working regularly with Oscar, he at times his sound was quite electric and quite legato, and it was almost like Neil's. It was almost sometimes like an engine running underneath the band. It was quite a, I don't know. I really loved it. Yeah, but different.
Yeah, I mean, it affects the music a lot. I think
Yeah.
it's a stylistic thing, isn't it, in terms of style, but also a personal thing. And you know, particularly as a drummer as well, like hearing that. I'm always trying to understand what I'm hearing, or at least trying to make sense of it in my own way. Doesn't matter what what you call it, these things, but it's like having that concept in your head of what you're hearing and how it fits together. I find that's really interesting. I think that really helps, doesn't it? And it's like, well, why does that person sound like that and that person sound like that? What is it they're doing that they're not doing? You know, and you know, you can like different things. It's fine. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just different. It's just, but why? Why is that different? Why does he sound like that? You know, I always find that fascinating. Yeah. Anyway, we should play some music. So, sorry, folks, we're getting very technical here, but I personally find this very interesting. So we're moving on to another great British musician again, who and somebody else who you work with a lot is of course Bobby Wellings, who we mentioned earlier, and we've got some footage here that you filmed of a session of a recording. So this is from the album Time Gentlemen Please, and it's the title track, and this is the great quartet with John Christensen on the piano as well, and Mark Taylor again on the drums, who's back over in this part of the world now, and this was but what's interesting here is we can see you twiddling some knobs as well, because something that, I mean, a lot of musicians know this, but maybe not a lot of the audience, that you've been a sound engineer for many years and a producer and an engineer, and you set up your own record label with this incredible output of amazing albums, a lot of which you're on, but not all that you're on. Other stuff as well. You produce records for other people as well, which is wonderful. And I'm just curious about how you got started on that. I'll tell you what, let's play it. Let's play this track, and then we'll talk about that after, because we've been chatting quite a bit there. So let's play this track. And so this is of course the great Bobby Wellings, who you know, you as I say, you did a lot of stuff with, and he's another one with incredible sound, isn't it? Sound on the instrument, which is you know, internationally famous for. So let's check this out. This is Time Gentlemen Please. Wonderful, yeah, and absolutely swinging again, and again, and that track shows you guys. You hit the ground just straight off, and that was just the two of you there with you and Mark. It just really swing. But what a lovely sound to hear Bobby again. It's just beautiful sound, isn't it? So, you've done all these recordings, and so what made you decide to get into that? How did that come about?
Pure arrogance.
No,
I mean that Ronnie Scott broadcast thing.
Yeah.
Like in the early 80s, there's still loads of radios, like stuff going out on the radio. Jazz in Britain was regularly booking live bands and recording them. There was Hump's Sunday night program, which had 2 live bands every week, and an hour of live music.
Live broadcast straight out.
Live broadcast.
Amazing, yeah.
All sorts of little things on radio too, like that one, Ronnie. And so there was a lot of recording and outside broadcasts all the time. Gigs were being like recorded from broadcasts from festivals and things. And one thing that always used to strike me, particularly as a bass player, which is basses are really hard to record really well, like double basses. And I always used to get pissed off with the sound of these recordings. And I nonchalantly thought, I can do better than that. I can do better than that. So very slowly I started experimenting, like just buying, like then it started off with a Walkman, and then those little DAT recorders came out. And then, if I buy a mixer, I can put more mics up. And then those digital multi-tracks came out, the Tascam thing, and the ADATs came out. So I got one of those Tascam. And then you start getting, I wonder what that microphone sounds like. I wonder what that sounds like. And just gradually I started building up stuff and just learning about it on my way.
It sounds like that you just had this absolute curiosity, which I think is the greatest thing that there is if you want to learn something, isn't it? You just have to be really curious about it and really into it, and be bothered enough to want to spend the time on it. Yeah,
and I think the biggest skill of it, the biggest asset of any engineer is how he listens to music, or how she listens to music, is because some people just, like recording drums, for instance, a number of times I've heard recordings of drums and there's no hi-hat on a straight 4/4 gig. I'm thinking, where the hell's 2 and 4? And then you can't hear the hi-hat. Maybe some people don't play it, but a lot of people still do play it. And 2 and 4 is the essence of Western music, really. And if it's not there, that's number one. And then the relation between the bass and the drums, and there's so many aspects to it. And the fact that you don't want to engineer something to really swing, you really want the bass really up front, as far up front as you can get it without it being overpowering, and the drums also to give the energy as far up front as you can. You don't want any of this putting a horn player right out the front and then a rhythm section somewhere.
And also with jazz, the drums, it's all about the cymbals as well.
And
they don't. Absolutely. A lot of it, if they're not used to jazz, they turn all the drums up and turn the cymbals down, and it's like jazz is about the cymbals. That's what you need to hear. I know what you mean. I've had some. I've been very fortunate. I've had some lovely sound engineers that I've worked with, and some horrible ones. And it's like the whole. It's like they can spoil your whole night, can't they? But So the other thing that I was curious about, because as you know, Spike Wells was on the show recently, and he's somebody that's had a real curiosity and not curiosity, a sort of love of recording, and he's famously sort of always recorded all his gigs a long time. And I know you work together a lot. Sorry.
Bootleg King.
Bootleg King, yes. So I'm just curious if were there many kind of conversations there on that, because you've worked with Spike a lot, haven't you? So with Bobby and that as well. So I can imagine there must have been some fun there with the setup. I'm just
the only thing I've
visualizing.
yeah, the only thing I've got against Spike is on all these recordings that he makes, he goes home and he edits out all the bass solos.
That's the bit when everyone starts talking about their holidays, isn't it? Famously. Oh, wonderful. Marvellous. I'm sure he'll have a equally witty retort
I'm
to
sure.
that. Yeah. So,
Only yours, sir.
yeah. And so, but you, of course, you took it further than just sort of recording a few gigs. You then set up a label and you're producing all these albums. I mean, that's another whole level.
So that just like
engineering, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, mastering as well. These are the dark arts. They really are, as far as I'm concerned.
Not really.
It's a mystery to me. I get so frustrated. We've all got gear now to record, and I'm going, well, I can hear it's different, but is it better? I don't know. It's like apples and oranges.
One of the things that really gets me about doing, like the projects I take on, like per hour, it's a pure act of generosity. If I get involved in a project that I really like, I'll spend a long time getting it right. And one thing that I kind of don't really allow it to happen, because I insist on mastering it myself, but I can spend weeks mixing something. I don't spend every day, hours a day, but I'll keep coming back to it with fresh ears every day and make little adjustments over a long time. And then someone will say, "Oh, great, yeah, thanks, Andy. Mix sounds fantastic. We're just going to go and master it this afternoon." And you give it to someone to go and master it, and they master it in 2 hours. You just spent 2 months. Finally, getting this thing together. Oh, yeah. What can I say?
Labour of love, yeah. But
anyway, the label came from an early recording I did was with fantastic Colin Purbrook, and what a great piano player he was. I got to know him through working with Andy Ross and Jack Parnell, which is another hugely pleasurable experience.
Amazing.
And we made this little recording, looked for a record label, which didn't happen. So just thought, let's just put it out ourselves. And so put that out. And
when was that, Andy? When was this?
Was probably 95, I think, 95.
Wow.
96
yeah.
And then when I started working with Stan, I thought, well, that was kind of weird. Let's record a couple of gigs, and just put it out ourselves.
You've been mentioned several times on this show before, because there's what the audience, some people listening may not appreciate, that there's a whole art to recording a live gig that then becomes an album. Recording in a studio is one thing. That's another thing. You've got a very controlled sort of like environment there. But to record a live gig, and of course then you're playing on it as well, which we were saying earlier is like having to switch heads. It's very challenging. I don't know how you do it, but there is a real art to getting a good sound off from a live gig that is then album quality, and you get it. It's incredible. You get such a great sound. Those live albums are wonderful. They sound amazing.
But if the band has a really good internal balance, and if you can sit in front of an acoustic band and you can hear everything, then the best way to record it is not with separation, because there's a natural flow of there's natural spill on all the mics, which can give an incredible depth of sound and sense of space. Rather than if you separate everything becomes very two-dimensional, and you miss that sense of you're in a recording space, and it just becomes there's a saxophone there, and there's drums there, and there's a bass piano there, and there's bass in the middle, and it's just like two-dimensional. And if you record where everything's spilling onto all the different mics, obviously it's a kind of echo on the different mics, and so it gives a sense of space. And if you get it right, it can sound magical, I think.
And presumably this is how they used to do it, because it's like yourself, you go and you listen to like Art Blakey in Copenhagen, or And they've got like there's some YouTube footage of them, aren't there? Like Mingus and things. And you look, and there's like they've only got 2 mics up or 3 mics. And you go, sounds great, you know.
Yeah.
But presumably this whole thing of separation really came about because of editing, isn't it? Where people can do multiple takes and things like that, which is you're not doing in jazz anyway. On a live gig, obviously that's not going to happen at all, is it? So that spillage thing is not. The separation is there's no need for it. Presumably, is there?
And I mean, if you you'll be surprised how much editing you can do on a live gig.
I've
experimented to extreme ends, and you can edit anything to make it sound great.
Oh, well, that is the dark arts. That is the
that's definitely a dark art.
You could tell us, but you'd have to kill us. Yeah, we know. Yeah. Well, look, let's play another track, because moving on now, we've got another great project that you're involved with, and you've brought along this. We've got a video, but it's an audio recording, but there's some pictures on it as well, like a montage. And this is Nikki Harris, because we should preempt that by saying, famously, of course, you did that wonderful gig with Gene Harris with Jim Mullen, which had a lot of hits on YouTube. So everybody, you must check out the video with you guys. It was Martin Jew and Jim Mullen and yourself and Gene Harris. And was it the Live in London album he did, or was it part of that kind of, or just a tour?
Actually,
just
Live in London, I recorded that one, but no, this was in Bern in Switzerland. And
was it?
That was just a live recording. And if I had a quid for everyone that said, "Oh, Andy, I've just seen a great video with you on," I'd be a very rich man. Yeah. But,
well, I'll put the link in below in case anyone's not seen it. But it's well worth checking out.
I completely died on that thing, because I mean, playing with Gene Harris was another amazing milestone in my lucky life.
And doesn't Jim sound great on that as well?
Jim
like they play off each other.
Yeah,
perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
just amazing. But I mean, Gene Harris, like, he had such a juggernaut of a vibe. No, it's not even good time. It's quite like, it was quite laid back, his playing, but the groove was just like unbelievable. So on those gigs, Jim would take a solo, which would be fantastic, and Gene Harris's comping would just be ridiculous. And Martin, wonderful, what a super unbelievably strong player. Yeah. So it's like flipping egg. It's like sitting in a flipping Ferrari and it being driven automatically. And it would come to a bass solo. I killed Martin for one thing. One bad habit he had was for bass solos, it would all be everyone else's solo. It would be roaring on this flipping the biggest china ever.
He had that little cymbal, didn't he? He would play for the bass solo.
And it would come to a bass solo and it would go tick, 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 tick. And then flipping it. And I'd be left with this bass. And it was a killer. And actually that YouTube thing, I was dying on that. And
well, you sound great.
And if you listen to the end of the bass solo, you can hear Gene Harris just catches me as I'm about to crash down into the
no. I mean, it's nice to have that contrast, isn't it? If everything's up like that, I mean,
I'm
it comes down, and then it comes up again. But I
to any drummers, bass, like for bass solo, just please stay on a ride cymbal. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, well, there we go, folks. A good lesson there you heard it from the best. So rather than play that clip, because as you said, a lot of people seen it, you picked something else, which is Nikki Harris, which is Gene Harris's daughter, who you work with.
Gene, we did work with him like these little European tours for about 3 or 4 years, and towards the end, Gene started saying, my daughter, what a great singer. Just out of the blue, it started on the last thing. And Gene and Nikki, his daughter, they've kind of been estranged, I think, for a long period. And they've never got to know each other. And just towards the end of Gene's life, Nikki and Gene got together.
That's lovely.
And they started working together. And talk about someone being a chip off the old block, like Nikki, also for what like a strong groove should be in anyone's playing. But of all the people I've worked with, Gene's one of the strongest. I mean, Stan Tracy, super strong inner beat. Martin True is another one, super strong beat. Yeah, I mean, Julian's was super strong, just this huge vibe of a groove. And Nikki had it in her, as a vocalist, she had that same groove. So you just work with her and it would swing like the clappers from the off, just amazing. And also a great singer. I think you said you discovered she was backing vocalist for Madonna for a long time.
Yeah.
That's her gig. So she wasn't really a jazz singer, and she got back into sort of jazz, got interested more into jazz from hanging out with her dad, and they started doing gigs together. And she's just a complete natural. And
she sounds like she's been doing it all her life.
Yeah, this was a little album that we did in Switzerland, which I recorded again. Yeah,
is this on your
not
label?
Really her swing, yes, but it's a nice bit.
It's a lovely ballad. It's a very thought of you. It's a lovely ballad. It's live at Marion's Jazz Room in Bern, and it's Nikki Harris, Karen Hammock on the piano.
Yeah,
and yourself and Martin Drew on the drums. And is this on your label? This album?
No. Nikki put this out herself, I think.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's check this out. So here we go.
I don't need your photograph to keep by my bed. Your picture is always in my head. I don't need your portrait, dear, to call you to mind. For sleeping or waking, Stefan, I find the very thought of you and I forget to do the little ordinary things that everyone ought to do. I'm living in a kind of daydream. I'm happy as a queen and foolish, though it may seem to me, that's everything. The mere idea of you the longing here for you. You never know how slow the moments go till I'm near to you. I see your face in every flower. Your eyes in stars above. It's just the thought of you, the very thought of you, my love. longing here for you. You never know how slow the moments go till I'm near to you. I see your face in every flower, your eyes in stars above. It's just the thought of you, the very thought of you, my love.
Absolutely wonderful, yeah. And that is Nikki Harris. So do check her out, folks. And my guest Andrew Cleyndert on the bass there, and recording that again. Fantastic, beautifully recorded, mate. Live gig there. I mean, you really capture the spirit of the music and of the moment as well, which is really quite something. But we were just chatting as well about her incredible intonation. Spot on, you know. And you would think she'd sung jazz all her life, but she was, as we said, many years backing singer for Madonna, dancing around on the back of the stage and all that. So on many world tours with Madonna. So obviously clearly very talented, but incredible.
Yeah, and an incredibly strong vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing that in. Well, we've got one more track. So before we finish, so and we can't go without obviously paying tribute. You picked this track with Don Weller, who sadly passed away last year, and he was somebody that you worked with a lot. And as you mentioned earlier, he gave you a dep and was very helpful for you in the early days when you're starting out, and somebody that you've known and worked with for a very, very long time. So and you've very graciously picked a track without you on it, which I think is the first person on the show to do that. And you've picked this beautiful. It's a beautiful track though, but it's one from your label. And so if people want to get these records, this one particularly, this is from an album called 9 Songs. 2007.
Yeah, sadly sold out before everyone starts asking.
It's sold out. Okay, so if we get enough
so
requests,
what a loser of a record
reprint. Yeah.
Promote a record he hasn't got any copies of.
Well, it's a beautiful track, and it features Don Weller and Mark Edwards on the piano, who was on the show recently, and Alan Barnes on some woodwind overdubs, which you recorded at your place afterwards. Again, Alan Barnes has been on the show recently. So, do you want to just say a few things about Don and about?
I mean, God, I owe so much to Don Weller. First, he Bobby properly, after John Altman kindly introduced me to Bobby gave me some bets in his quartet, which I did join for a bit. Then but Don employed me from the off, really. I started working with Don first, just as a det. I think Spike was on that very first gig I did with him.
Right.
Errol Clark on piano, American piano player down in Brighton. And Don employed me ever since, and he's one of the world's great tenor players. Just unique approach, unique sound, just unique set of influences, just like a truly amazing voice, and just an amazing, generous soul again. And what can I say? What a loss.
Yeah.
But he had a long life, and he made some great music. And this track, actually we on the session we recorded Chelsea Bridge, and he really didn't like the arrangement, and he thought he sounded rubbish on it. So we went into the Bull's Head one afternoon, just me, Mark, and Don, and we just recorded this as a duet. And then Mark thought, oh, I know what would be nice. A nice little clarinet choir would be great. And I've been out taking photographs at Alan Barnes for an album with Paul Clarvis and that great Fives there. Anyway, and so kind of Alan, he still owes me loads of favors, but he owed me a favor, particularly on that one. So in return for the photographs, he came round and he laid some beautiful clarinet, about 6 clarinet parts, including a bass clarinet part, to this track, and made a little clarinet choir. And Don plays absolutely beautifully on it. Unfortunately, it's such a long track, I edited out the piano solo. Sorry, Mark. But it'll be up somewhere. It's worth checking out. It's a beautiful piano solo for another time. But yeah, Don's playing is impeccable. It's lovely.
And like all great artists, I mean, hearing him on the ballad is because
Absolutely.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like a lot of people can tear it up, but it's when you strip it down.
I saw Don floor so many people playing a ballad. Like no one could touch him.
Yeah.
And just amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
just because, I mean, he wore his heart on his sleeve, and he had a huge heart, and yeah, what a great player. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, what we'll do is I think we'll play out on this one because unfortunately time's got against us again, and it's been absolutely fascinating chatting to you, Andy, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. I've really enjoyed it.
It has for us, Buster. I hope other people will enjoy it as much as me.
Well,
thank you very much for asking me. It's a great. This concept is fantastic, as we were just discussing. Two musicians talking about music is a rare thing to have an ear into. So I've been listening to other shows, and it's really fascinating, like getting the background of people. And
well, thank you. It's very kind of you. Yeah, and as they say, if the audience have enjoyed it half as much as we have, then we've enjoyed it twice as much as them. Sorry. No, it's very kind of you to say that. Yeah, I mean, I hope people do get something out of these shows, other than, of course, all this beautiful music. I think there's something about musicians chatting about music, which, like you say, it doesn't happen much, really, does it? Because we don't get time even when we're doing gigs, we're just sort of in and out. So I really appreciate you sharing some of your sort of thoughts on that. And have you got anything in the book? Anything coming up? Anyone can check out? You've got the new album out with Andrea, which I'll put the link to below.
At the moment, I'm just sitting at home. Clark had a great idea of everyone's doing these live streams, Andy. Let's do these live streams. So we've done one with Art Freeman, which is great and really nice to do with Gareth Williams on piano and me and Clark. It was great to play for a start, and then it was nice to do some recording again. But I've never done the video thing before, so I've got a load of cameras and put a load of cameras, and then you come home and you spend 2 weeks editing. So I'm just doing a second one now with Karen Sharp, which is a really nice session again with Gareth and Clark.
Fantastic. And where can people find that if they want to find those links?
Just do a search for Hearts Jazz and it will come up.
Hearts Jazz.
And Karen's one is a really nice session. Karen plays great on it. It's really nice.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Is if you send me the links, I'll put them in below. So we'll put them in the links below if people want to check that out, so they can see that. And so some of those have been done, and some which are recordings, and some are coming up.
Will be out in a couple of weeks.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks, mate. It's been lovely to see you.
Bye, thank you.
I will definitely take you up on your offer and come over and we'll have a play. That'd be really nice. I really enjoy that. And thanks everybody for checking in and tuning in. And Georgia says that was fantastic. Thank you both. Brian Wade's in the house as well. Hi, Brian. And Peter Gore as well is in the house. So thanks, everyone. And if you have enjoyed the show, folks, and if you're watching the rerun, then do consider a donation. We do very much appreciate it. We're not quite out of the woods yet. So do check out the link there, Virtual Jazz Club, and you can make a donation, a one-off donation with PayPal or Visa, or you can sign up to make a regular donation on my Patreon page. And we're going to leave you with this track now. This is Don Weller. Also, if you're interested in searching through the catalogue of amazing albums that Andy's recorded and put out, the link to his record label is below as well. So that's triorecords.co.uk, and you can see the entire catalogue there of just some absolute gems in there. So do check those out, folks. Okay, everyone, take care. I'll be back next week with Ed Bentley, fantastic Hammond organ player, and recorded a lot of great music and led some great bands. So that'll be a lot of fun. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon, and we're going to leave you with Don Weller and this beautiful ballad, which is "We'll Be Together Again." Thank you. Good night. Cheers, Andy.
Yes.